There was a pound of whiskey who scratched my heart. The illogical nature of his attacks felt like shards of glass. But I picked up the pieces and created pain, aware that the bleeding wouldn't last. My body created pain to keep me safe, and I accepted her as my best friend. Pound knocked on my door and reminded me that I wanted more. My heart beat heavy as I cringed at his bloodshot face. My heart was real and full of guilt. He always made me feel like I was wrong. But in the darkness and in the danger, I learned guilt and shame weren't where I belonged. You know, the beautiful thing about art, especially when you're the one making it, is that sometimes you don't even fully know what it means until a while later. What I just read to you was an excerpt from my novella, Monsters, which you can buy on Amazon, Half Price Books, Barnes & Noble. It's all online under J. Dill. The title is Monsters. You can also get it at my website, or links to it at my website at lovingcreatively.com, and I'll put the link in the notes. And really, those lines are what I want to focus on today. So I know I said that new episodes would only be every Friday, but what I'm finding is that I can't wait sometimes to talk to you about things because I get so excited, and sometimes I get little pockets of time where I'm able to unexpectedly record, and I want you to get it while it's fresh. So, quick adjustment to the posting schedule. There will always be a new episode on Friday. I promise you that. But here and there, I'm going to sprinkle in bonus episodes when I can record them. And today, I want to focus on something beautiful, but also something very heavy on my heart that I feel like I need to share, right now, kind of while it's hot. And so my intention today is to bring you some light, to bring you some encouragement, to bring you some hope about who you are and the state of the world. And I'm going to share some of my own insights, experiences, growth, and sort of visions to kind of help bring you into the light with me. So if you're like me and you're feeling a little bit depressed by the world, particularly what's happening in the United States right now, join me, because I'm here to bring you some hope. And I promise you, hope moves in and out of all of the terrible things. It is not lost. Hope is like the wind, a powerful force that those who oppress never see coming, a powerful force that is always present, always there to help you breathe and to carry you. I promise hope and victory are very much alive, even in the worst of times. And to help illustrate this point, I'm going to talk about my book Monsters, and I'm going to talk about why it came to my mind recently, and the whole thought process behind how art can inspire us. But before I can get to the hope, I need to talk about the whole tragedy piece. And bear with me as I do, because I'm one of those people who, when I get a cold, it hangs on for several weeks. So you might notice that I've had this cold for a while now. Unfortunately, colds just cling on to me. It's another thing that I'm hoping will kind of disappear or get better as time goes on and I hopefully move to a different climate. So forgive me for the occasional cough and congestion. But let me first talk to you about why I really needed to record this episode and what inspired me to pick up my Monsters book. So I live in Minnesota, and right now we are in the wake of tragedy. And although I don't necessarily believe that politics and that the government is the solution to our problems, in fact, I think our government often is the problem, and there's too many hidden agendas, I do also believe that there are genuinely good folks working inside the government who genuinely have the best interest of all people at heart. And regardless of the motivations of politicians, I can't help but feel heartbroken about something that happened over the weekend to two Minnesotan politicians and their families. They were local Democratic representatives, and they were shot and killed in their own homes by somebody impersonating a police officer. And I'm going to just be honest with you, I don't necessarily have any proof. I only have my gut feelings. These were people who opposed some of the new laws related to human rights that are being pushed right now in this country. And they were pretty open about opposing those laws. And they were murdered. And although there's a suspect in mind, it just seems like an odd situation. They found this suspect's car, and in the car he had lists. Like he had a literal list of the politicians he was going to target, plus notes about the No Kings protest that was going on in Minnesota. And I was talking to my husband last night, and I thought, you know what? That's really weird. Why would he have lists? In this day and age of, the digital, why would anybody physically write out a list of their targets? And also, if you're going to target someone with gun violence, you know who you're targeting. You don't need to write it down. And again, I don't know, but I just suspect that something bigger is going on here, right? I think we can all agree that the United States is a really sketchy place right now. It's a really unsafe place right now. And I'm going to just go ahead and say it. I have a feeling there's something more sinister lurking beneath the murder of these two politicians. That it might not just be the work of this random guy impersonating a police officer. And like I said, politics are not everything. In fact, I feel like they're often more of a hindrance in that they've lost sight of what they were there for, right? To protect the people. But I am heartbroken by this. I mean, how horrific to be in your bed at night and somebody who's supposed to protect you, who's dressed as somebody who's supposed to protect you, instead murders you and your husband. It's fucked up, right? And you all know that I have pretty intense dreams and pretty intense visions. And the night that these murders took place, some of my own nightmares came back to me. What's really odd is that the night of the murder, before I even knew that it happened, I dreamed about somebody who sexually assaulted me back in 2016. And all of a sudden he was just in this dream, and he was at a nail salon of all places, like where I was going to get my nails done. And here's the thing, I'm not really a nails kind of lady. I don't do that. But in this dream, I was going to get my nails done, and here was this perpetrator who had assaulted me in real life several years ago, sitting in my spot where I was to get my nails done. And I ran out of the nail salon in my dream, rushed down the stairs of a back door, and lo and behold, I saw a police officer, kind of a gruff-looking white man standing near other gruff-looking white men. And I remember thinking in the dream, okay, I don't know if this is the best idea. I don't really trust these guys. They give off a bad vibe, but I have to find somebody in case this rapist follows me. I need help, and this is all I've got, I guess. So I walked up to the police officer. I told him what happened and just said, can I stand by you for a minute until this guy goes away? And the first thing this police officer said to me was, well, are you sure you didn't just make up this assault for attention? Are you sure that, you didn't just make it all up? That this isn't just, an attention grab? And in the dream, I was both appalled but also not surprised, because unfortunately, this has been the story for many women and girls throughout history. Either not being believed, being belittled, or being so afraid to speak up about assault that they just bury it. And I have a direct experience with this kind of thing when I was 12 years old and was sexually assaulted by a boy on a church camp trip. I literally, I came forward and said something, and it was a really awkward and uncomfortable experience, and I was basically talked out of reporting the crime because it happened in Canada. And the youth pastor at the time said, well, Jenna, this could get really complicated. You're both Americans, the boy who did this and me, and, we're in Canada, so that complicates the legal battle, and you might have to come back here, for some of these court appearances. So, it's up to you. I don't know what you want to do, but, and he was kind of leaning towards just sort of forget about it, and I was 12, I was freaked out. I was ashamed, which I shouldn't have been because I wasn't who did it, but that's naturally what happens to victims is they feel ashamed. They feel like they did something wrong, but it wasn't them. And I just said, okay, I guess I'll quote unquote forget about it. But it's middle school, rumors spread. And sure enough, rumor of this assault spread, and a different boy, not the boy who did it, but forgive me, I know, really awkward timing for my son to walk in, but I had to record this so badly that I just couldn't avoid recording with him here. So forgive my... Okay, take that out there with you. Take that out there. This recording isn't going to be perfect, but it's going to be good. So, sorry about that. My 2-year-old son interjected at a really awkward time where his mother is talking about sexual assault. But, that's parenting, right? You try to, serve the public, live your dreams the best you can right alongside a very outspoken toddler. So let me keep going. Basically, a boy in the youth group, not the one who did it, but, a different one, brought it up to me and said, yeah, I thought you made the whole thing up, but, and by the whole thing, he meant the sexual assault. He's like, but now, I guess it probably happened. A couple other girls have come forward, so, I mean, so how fucked up is that? So, not only do I have a real life experience of this firsthand, but I can promise you I'm not the only one. Sadly, this is a very commonplace thing. And in the dream, it's probably why I wasn't surprised when this police officer said, well, are you sure you're just not making it up? Who knows? Maybe it was my own brain drawing on that trauma from being in middle school of just not being taken seriously. But the point is, I study a lot of dream symbolism because here's a tip for you. Your dreams are symbols. They are guides. They're not meant to be taken literally. They're meant to be kind of analyzed. It's sort of your imagination and the creative part of your brain projecting something that needs your attention, and it takes some time to process it. So I encourage all of you, by the way, to record your dreams if you can. And AI is an excellent tool for helping you to analyze and interpret them. I feel like we've lost touch with our imaginations quite a bit these days, and we've lost touch with what dreams can teach us, but dreams are there to teach us, to help us process things and bring important things to our attention. So what I recommend, because this is what I do and it works great, is write down your dreams as soon as you wake up, as much as you can remember. Don't get mad at yourself if you can't remember all of them, but write down as much as you can remember, and then copy and paste it into AI, whether it's ChatGPT, Google Gemini is what I use, and ask it to help you interpret it. Now, it's not a therapist, right? And it will tell you that. I'm not saying that this is the way to process any kind of trauma that might be surfacing. It's just a great tool that will help you start to understand the language of dreams. And I've been doing this for quite a while now, and it's really enriched my understanding of myself. It's helped a lot with my memory, and it kind of gets you back in touch with yourself and your subconscious and your spirit guides and what they might be trying to tell you. I really do think we've lost touch with our dreams and what we can learn from them and what we know about ourselves from them. And basically, forgive me, I think that this particular dream of my running to the police officer was sort of symbolic. Like, I think my psychic abilities were tapping into what was going on, not very far from my home, because I live in Minnesota, not far from where these attacks happened. I think my psychic abilities were tapping into, hey, here's a police officer, somebody who's supposed to protect, and they're not. You could also look at the symbolism of, hey, our government is supposed to protect us. And either they're not, the corrupt ones, or the ones who are supposed to be kind of our pillars of safety are under attack, and they're not even being protected. And so I think that this dream symbolism was sort of alerting me to that fact that, like, sometimes the figures that are supposed to be there to protect us don't. And I've been feeling really heavy and full of fear the last couple of days, and just really depressed. Because let's be honest, this is not the world we want. this is not the America that we want. Not really. It's not. You know, even those who kind of fell for the bullshit, make America great again, they know this isn't what they want. They don't want people feeling unsafe in this country. They don't want to feel unsafe in this country. Nobody wants to believe that their leaders have hidden agendas backed by billionaires. Nobody wants to believe that. We all, I think, collectively as a humanity, want to believe that we are connected as a humanity, that all of us are looking out for each other, that all of us have each other's backs, that all of us genuinely just want everybody to feel safe. Because here's the thing, human beings all actually have the right to feel safe, to be protected, to have access to healthcare, to have access to clean water and food, to feel loved. We all actually inherently have that right as human beings, but it's gotten so lost and confused in the bullshit. And even the ones in authority who are using their privilege and resources to put themselves above everybody else, they're lost too. I would even argue that they don't want that. They're lost. They've gotten pulled into a game that they don't even really want to play, but they're too deep in it. And I've been really sad and depressed because nobody deserves to be shot and killed in their own home by somebody who is supposed to protect them. So today I was thinking about all of these things, and the word stardust came to me. Stardust. And as a psychic and deeply feeling person, I believe that every single human being is born of stars. I believe that we all have a divine nature. That we're not just human. We are human, but we have souls. Souls that came from heavenly realms and vibrated into the bodies we have now to accomplish something magnificent on earth. That's what I believe, is that the core of who we are, our own light, is much more ancient and powerful than we even know. But I think when we get to Earth, some of these survivalist games get in the way. And that brings me back to my book, Monsters. So the excerpt I read to you at the beginning of this book talked about, in the darkness and in the danger, I learned guilt and shame were not where I belonged. Now, this was a magical realist novel about my experience with domestic abuse. And it was a way, so there's real stuff that happened in this book about my own experience with domestic abuse, but I included the magical in it because I promise you the magical is very much how human beings recover. And I'm going to tell you this right now, and it's a deep truth, so make sure you're listening. Discovering your own divinity and your own inner light and power can heal you from anything. The deepest, darkest traumas. Now, it doesn't mean all your feelings of fear will disappear. It doesn't mean that it will happen overnight. But it will happen throughout your whole lifetime, and it will be very powerful with many gifts along the way. And as I wrote Monsters, I was coming to terms with accepting my body, because I actually wrote Monsters in the wake of a panic attack. I don't get panic attacks often. I maybe had 2 or 3 in my whole life, and I had one while working at a previous job. I was around somebody who was dangerous, and all of a sudden my body was just I couldn't sit still. I was in an office setting with my boss and this person who I believed to be dangerous, and I was so angry at myself because I couldn't sit still in his presence. I was fidgeting, and I just scooting my chair because I wanted to jump out of my skin, and I was like, Jenna, what are you doing? You're at work. You have to be professional. You can't be wiggly and fidgety. What are you doing? And then I came home, and upon further reflection realized that I was having a panic attack. There was something in my body that recognized something unsafe in this individual that I remembered from prior experience with abuse. And although I wasn't in a partnership with this person, he was exhibiting very abusive tendencies that were familiar to me. So my body was trying to tell me to run. It was trying to say, Jenna, get out. Get away from this. And the writing of Monsters was the beginning of my journey of accepting the things that have happened to me, the good, the bad, the in-between, but also learning to love my body instead of shame it for its panic-stricken reactions. It was the beginning of a curiosity instead of judgment. Curiosity instead of judgment. Instead of judging myself for panicking in an office setting, I asked myself why. And Monsters was born. And it's a beautiful work of art. And I highly encourage you to read it. It's like 80 pages. It's kind of a rabbit hole. So you got to kind of just jump down. And it's written with the intent of helping anybody who's ever been abused or maybe just harassed or whatever it might be, or maybe just your self-esteem is at an all-time low. It's meant to help you find your own inner light again. And here's what I'm going to say about the power and magic of art. This book, I published it like 1.5 years ago, but it came back to me now. That section that I read where I talked about guilt and shame are not where I belonged. Guilt, shame, and fear are not where any of us belong. None of us were meant to live this way. In fear for our lives, in competition with each other. We're meant to be there for each other. And I promise we can do it. People are already doing it. We just have to shatter these mirrors. We have to shatter these narcissistic mirrors that tell us that the only way to success is to knock others down, to discriminate, to say and do whatever just so we feel superior. Because nobody actually wants that. We don't. We might think we do, but we don't. I go on in the book to talk about stardust. And as a couple of the characters are talking about stardust in the book, I want to read that to you. So bear with me as I conclude this episode with some of the wisdom from my book, but not without a little bit more interruption from my 2-year-old first. Okay, but Mom needs to finish this, so here's your water.
Okay.
I'll meet you out there in just a minute, okay? So in this book it says, so what about the world then? What do people make if they're not monsters? And let me actually pause there and say, it's very easy to feel like the world is monsters right now, and human beings have done a lot of monstrous things. In fact, when you see them portrayed in movies and on the news a lot, the worst of human capabilities are often shown. And I think that's the other thing that gets us lost, is we think that monstrosities are the only thing that we're capable of. Shout out to my 2-year-old for providing the heavy breathing in the background to maybe just add some ambiance to this whole monsters concept. So in the book, the character is talking about, what are we then, if not monsters? And here's the answer. I think the point is that we are monsters, but we are many other shades too. And we can't be afraid to look at ourselves. We reflect the creation of the world. A base of blood, a curling wave of blue, broad gray bricks, and a mirror too. Blood flows and gives life. Water flows and restores. Gray builds and learns. And mirrors remind us to always look at ourselves. Not just in moments of vanity, but in truth too. We need to see who we are with the monsters. The lies and the running were where I lost you. And then it ends with, we looked into our eyes and saw the skies, the brightness of where we could stretch. Then we stretched our wings and thought of beautiful things, increasing our awareness of what the mind could bring. What beautiful things do people make, and what makes us divine? Blood, water, building reflection, and the ability to understand our own minds. Remember where you come from when you believe you are only a monster. Remember that you are stardust. Remember that you can create as we do. You have. You are a being of the heavens and stars, crafted to shelter the earth. So again, please forgive me for the background noises of my son dumping water and chanting in the background. But thus is life. I think all of us have read some books from time to time with the disruptions of everyday life. But I'm going to keep it in here so you know that you're not alone if you're trying to accomplish great things and your responsibilities are just right there alongside you. But all of that is to say, and when I bring up blood in that, I mean the blood that flows through our body, not blood that we spill. But the whole book, Monsters, is about the concept of sometimes human beings become monstrous because it's what we think we need to do to protect ourselves. We act out of defense because we're just trying to survive. And at one point, maybe we had to do that to survive. My panic attack was there, and I talk about getting kind of addicted to pain, which I created as a monster, because it was like, well, the closer I am to pain, the more I cling to pain, the more I won't be surprised when she comes. The more that I run, the more that I seek out other monsters, the more I won't be surprised when they show up on my doorstep. But I also believe, like I said before, that human beings, we are made from rather divine things. And I can tell you, as someone who has started to see just a spark of their own inner light, that it is incredibly real. That we are connected to things much bigger and brighter than ourselves, but we are much bigger and brighter than we even know on a conscious level at all times. I believe that human beings are made from stardust. That we come from something divine and big. And I don't know why we're here on Earth. I don't know that full answer beyond that we're each here for a specific purpose that will help everyone. But what I do know is that we can thank our survival instincts for protecting us while we're here. They serve their purpose and they're good, but they shouldn't be our base. They shouldn't be what we act from all the time. We're meant to act from our divine nature. And look at all the beautiful things that humans have made. Although skyscrapers aren't environmentally friendly, they're incredible. A tiny little human can build something that much bigger than itself. Look at all the people out there working to build AI in ways that conserves and protects the environment. I'm a huge fan of Mo Gaudat. I've been reading his book and following his work lately. He accomplishes incredible things. Take a look at the kid who stands up to the bully and picks up the books that were knocked down. The one who's brave enough to say, hey, no, lead with love. I want to record this episode for you today in hopes that you'll take away... Thank you.
To you.
Okay, buddy. Yep. If it happens to be your birthday, please enjoy, this random edition of my son singing, but I'm going to try extra hard to emphasize my point, even with him alongside me. I think the way that we heal this world is, number one, to pay attention to the warnings. And the warning that I'm getting in my dreams is that we need to get back to actually protecting each other, to not lying to each other and disguising ourselves for our own personal gain. And we need to pay attention to all the people out there right now who are doing things to protect and serve humanity. And more than anything else, I need you to hear this. Remember how divine you are. By just taking time to journal, pay attention to your dreams, look for your own inner light, you will realize all of the beautiful and incredible things that you are actually capable of embracing. I promise it's real. I promise the light is real and the wind of hope is real. Start looking for it. Look for the hope. Because something that Mo Gaudat also said in his book, Scary Smart, that surprised me, is that most human beings are inherently good. It doesn't feel like that a lot, right? There's too many things telling us otherwise. But it's true. So if you're feeling overwhelmed by the darkness and the pain and the monsters, take a minute to look for your own inner light. Take a minute to just be with yourself and be grateful for all that you are. And I promise the more that you discover your own light, the more you will be inspired to help others and to spread that light. And also order a copy of Monsters. It's a really trippy guide. It's fun though. If you're into Black Mirror, you'll really like Monsters. It's meant to be a guidebook. And there's even a sequel to it too, She Death's Reflection, also by Jay Dill. You can find them all on my website or Amazon because they're there. Thank you so much for being with me today and being patient through all of the disruptions. Like I said, I'm going to keep the disruptions in there. I know they might be distracting in a minute, but I'm going to keep them in there because that's life, okay? Like, the reality is I'm not perfect. I don't have perfect recordings. It's going to be what it's going to be, but I knew I had to talk to you now, and who knows, maybe the random stuff in it will somehow add to it. But be encouraged today. Thank you for your time. I hope that you feel just a little bit more healed, or that you have some next steps. And, again, I gotta thank you for coming.